Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good morning, everybody. Cowboy here. It is Thursday, April the 23rd at 8:32 a.m. EST, and we had an exciting night last night across markets, in oil in particular, but there was a big move in oil, and it affected the rest of the market, and it did what's called a short squeeze, and you can see it right there on the screen. So this big spike up right there. Now, this big spike up means a lot. It means a lot when you're trading, and it means a lot to markets, and it actually means a lot as far as what I think is going on geopolitically, and as far as what I think geoeconomically, markets, like there's a particular game I think is being played here. And, I'm not the first person to think of this. Actually, I've heard a number of people just yesterday, Joaquin Flores was talking about it. And I think we're seeing a game being played between forces here in the US and Iran. And let's just say if it's not blatant market manipulation, it certainly is some form of insider trading. And in a certain sense, I don't think anybody's going to get in trouble, but we must understand, I think, what is going on. I can tell you certainly why oil spiked up and caused the rest of the market to freak out. Now, whether or not the insider trading thing is going on is more speculation. I'll dig into it. It's going to be hard to verify any of that type of stuff. Before we do that, though, 2 things. 60% of you who watch this do not subscribe. Sometimes it's actually like 65%. So do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, helps us out. Also, there is a free algo in the description. Go in there, click the link. You get a very quick video, shows you how to build an algorithm. That algorithm is the centerpiece to an agentic trading bot, right? An AI agentic trading bot, like a trading agent, basically. And that's the engine of the trading agent, okay? So I show you how to build it. I show you how to turn it into code, which you need to do. And I show you the tools that traders use to connect that to their exchange so it can trade for them when they're not even sitting there. They're out playing golf. Maybe they're sleeping, whatever the case might be. You just have to optimize the code before you do that. So here we are looking at oil. And it was last night at about 8 p.m. EST. And there was this major spike up. You can see it here. I'll zoom in also. But in the news, what happened was apparently there was an escalation. Reports emerged that Iranian Revolutionary Guard fired on a Libya-flagged container vessel and seized 2 other cargo ships in the Strait. Prices also spiked as Tehran officially stated it would not reopen the Strait while the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports remained in place. Now, 20% of the oil in the world goes through that point, goes through the Hormuz Strait. So the market priced in an immediate supply, like a black hole in supply. And then there was a crash. There was a back down. And basically it was a liquidity trap because everybody was buying, nobody was selling. So that means that basically when people sell off while nobody is, selling, and then let's just say, let me rephrase that. When everybody stops buying and everybody starts selling, then there's nobody to buy, which means there's no liquidity to hold up the price. So Trump made an announcement almost immediately, announced an indefinite extension to the ceasefire. And even though the blockade remains, the indefinite nature, the true signal the algos into a full-scale kinetic war that was being de-escalated in favor of diplomatic pressure. So that unwound that short squeeze. Now, short squeeze is what you see on the screen, how it just, completely spikes up really hard right here. In fact, I will zoom in there like I said I would earlier so you can actually see it on a lower time frame. And I mean, this is brutal for traders. Absolutely brutal. And price really for example, in the forex market and all the markets was at a critical point as well. So there were a lot of people who got liquidated across many markets there. But this happened within 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's even more dramatic if you look on like the 1 minute time frame. You can see just how dramatic this was. The actual spike was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. It went up from $101 all the way on this chart to about 106. And I understand, this is just a futures price. I mean, the actual oil delivery is probably spiked up to like, who knows, 150 or something. The oil delivery is much more than what you're going to see on these financial markets. And then it retraced almost all of it within 3 minutes in the flash crash, right? And I know flash crash might be a very, let's say it's a very it's dramatic. That's, flash crash. Really, this wasn't like a flash crash, but it certainly was flash volatility. That said, it does kind of continue to stabilize and move up overnight, but it didn't get past that kind of key level of 103 for very long. So we'll take a look what I think oil is going to do, but let's take a brief look at what it did to the rest of the market. And I'll keep it on the 5-minute here. So if you go to the NASDAQ, you can see a big spike down, right? NASDAQ was in an all-time high right there at 27.1, and it just spiked all the way down. And then you had Trump lift it back up, and it's kind of held at about 27, what is this, 27,027 USD. So it's holding, right? It's holding above some prior high areas. USD JPY, absolutely brutal. This was a key level. This blue line was a key level. So traders probably had shorts on. And I actually had a short on at that point, like a small, just a scalp. And my stop loss was not even, it was above there. So I don't know. I took it off because price was moving in a way that didn't make any sense to me. Now you can see that I had predicted back on yesterday, that price would break upwards, and break upwards it did. But price started to move in a way that I didn't like, and I was actually kind of watching it. I was like right there watching. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna back out of here, and back out I did. And this is what happened. So whether it was luck or intuition or a little bit of both, that's what happened. Bitcoin got affected. Just a quick nuke down there. Not too bad though. The euro, nasty spike. And was it at a key level? Let's take a look. It may have been. Not so much. Let me see. Where was that? Thursday was. Oh, I'm looking at the daily chart. No, I'm on the 3-hour. Yeah, not notable. So it's going to be noticeable on a lower time frame, certainly, but I don't think it was at a very key level. So the people trading the euro probably didn't get too badly hurt. They, at that point the euro was bearish, so they might have gone into profit actually. And that happens too. GBP, JPY, not really seeing a lot going on at that time. Gold spiked down, but it looks like it's recovering pretty nicely. It spiked down, continued down, but gold, what I predicted, I had kind of two paths on gold that I predicted. So long story short, before we get into what I think is going to happen on some of these charts, I just want to show you the carnage that erupted, especially with USD JPY. That was absolutely brutal short squeeze into a key level. So these are the kind of things where, people ask themselves, oh, well, why is it that I can create this algorithm and it doesn't win every single time? It's because of stuff like this. And quite frankly, the market always has X factors. Like this isn't, trading is a great way to make money. And it's not a very easy, it's a very simple thing to learn, believe it or not. You'd think it's complex. You got all these lines on the screen and all these fancy, stuff on the bottom. But if you learn it bit by bit, it's actually a pretty simple process. It just takes dedication. And the people who fail mostly they mostly fail because they quit. Rather than just persisting, right? And the other people who fail is because they don't follow directions, and because they don't follow directions, they're not successful and they quit. So it really all comes down to psychology, right? But you have to understand that you're tilting a slot machine into your favor. Like you're not finding some magic formula that catches all the wins. And every time you think you found it when you're actually creating your trading method, your algos, everybody goes through that moment of I've got it. Every single trade's going to win. And no, it never happens. It's never going to happen. You're going to win 65% of them or whatever your number is. So, and that's great. I mean, if you can sit at a slot machine and know that you're going to win 65% of the time, you're going to just play slots all day. Now, this requires just work to build that, but it's all doable. It's all based on probabilities. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a look at the NASDAQ, and we'll back out and we'll see what what all the data says. And I can almost just tell you the NASDAQ is bullish. It's bullish high time frame. The only way that this really gets knocked back down, let me open this up so you can see what I'm talking about. So, NASDAQ was at the all-time high last night, and that was at 27,140, knocked back down by the oil. Little shock there, already on the way back up, and it's just bullish, right? And I did predict that there's, a very likely break to the upside when we did yesterday's show. I talked about manipulation, price being held up, and that doesn't always mean it's going to break to the upside. But in this case, everything else pointed to a break to the upside, and upside it did. So where is it going to go next? If we look at the trajectory, I'm going to back out a little bit. Give me just 1 second. Pardon me. All right, so I'm going to back out to the daily so we can get a look at the trajectory, right? Because if you look at the trajectory, the general angle of this, right, going back to 2 years ago, 2023, price has been moving at this trajectory, right? You always want to zoom out to get the trajectory. So when you do that, you have an idea of how quickly price will get to certain places. And then when you zoom in, you can even have some more updated trajectories. You're going to average them out. So, this is ultimately a trajectory kind of averaging out, the movement of price. Let's see here. It's actually through here. And the more you zoom in, the more you can get a more up-to-date trajectory. Let's see here. I think that's actually a decent, I prefer to do is take this from a midpoint. That makes a little more sense. It's the same trajectory though, more or less. So there's like the aggressive look, there is the conservative look. But I think our next target is going to be 28,930. And the next target after that is going to be 32, which that might take a while to get to. It just really depends on whether or not the broader trajectory is going to take over rather than, like your most recent volatility to the upside. So let's just say that we continue to see this, what we're seeing right now, and that, the bulls really, really kick in, then I'd say we're probably going to see 29,000, 28,900 by June. Right. But this move up is not really the typical trajectory, right? So I wouldn't want to just like draw an arrow and say it's going this way, but it's possible. A less aggressive, that has it like by, that's like in a week, basically. So I'd say more realistically, morning Miko, by the way, good to have you on, my friend. I would say that, yeah, June is realistic and July is even probably a little more realistic. So you're looking at scenarios where it'll sort of, slow down and then move. Typically something like, that, or even a longer sideways move. So let me go ahead and just mark these and get rid of some of this noise. You got that, and then just way out there, like next year. And then I'll get rid of these arrows. I get the feeling that they're going, and I know I've said this enough times, but I think they're going to juice the market. They're gonna maybe drop interest rates. We got Kevin Warsh coming in. Who knows what the deal is, but you'll see maybe something like this, and everything always moves and fits and starts. So I think either of these is kind of realistic. But you know what? I mean, the fact is it could just bomb up and go straight to here. And then, so these are all kind of realistic, looks. But I would say I'd say by June, it's pretty realistic, unless something happens, unless we get, some kind of big change, some kind of shock. The oil just freaks out. The war comes back on in a big way. Ukraine pops off in an uncontrollable manner. Like there's a lot of things that can happen to interrupt this, but if everything stays stable, then there's a good chance they're going to juice it and take it as high as possible up to the midterm elections. The next target is 32,400. So as that goes, we'll have to take a look at it. And before we flip over to the private live lab, we'll just take a brief look at Bitcoin, and it is continuing up towards 80,000. It's grinding. So I would say, I think it's going to make it to 80 though. Just my primary thesis right now is that it's going to reject somewhere, and 80,000 is kind of a reasonable spot for it to reject. But for the moment, I do think you're going to see, now this is on the daily chart, we're going to roll back down to the 3 hour. I think you're going to see just a grind up to that level. It might panic up and even panic through 80 just a little bit. That can happen. So just kind of, pull one of these, and it might even panic up and through, but to bring in the bulls and then head down. That's a very likely thing to happen. It's early to say that. I'm not predicting that. I'm just showing you. I guess I could say I'm predicting it as a very strong possibility, right? It's not the only possibility. There are many possibilities. It could simply reject at 80. It could go beyond 80 way far and not come back down. But the most likely thing I see right now is either 80 and a rejection, or a spike above 80 and a rejection. And if price goes back and makes new highs and makes significant new highs and doesn't come back down, then you're looking at a complete change in the paradigm of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is changed fundamentally at that point. Okay. So that is the public live lab. I'm going to flip over to the private live lab. Thank you all for watching. Just wanted to take you all through what I think is happening. And the thesis geopolitically, I think, to top it all off, is that Trump and somebody in Iran have a deal of some kind where they're like making things happen to push price around on oil and other assets, and they're betting on it. I know that sounds terrible, but it's actually kind of the way business is done, and it's the way business always has been done. And the only difference now is that Trump is the one doing it, rather than, some muckety mucks in England or, Obama and his friends, right? This is just the world, and you could be mad about it, or you could just understand that it is what it is and there's nothing you can do about it. And in fact, you can profit if you wish to. So come on over to algofactory.tech, learn how to profit in the chaos, learn how to take advantage of what's going on. And links in the description for the free algo. Thanks for watching. Heading over to the private live lab. Do not forget.
Join us or die.
By the way, you're not going to die. We love you. We'll be back Tuesday. I should be able to get a market report out on Monday. We'll be back on Tuesday for the private live lab, or the public live lab. I don't even know what that date that is, but it'll be 8:30 a.m. EST. Thanks for watching.